Okay, so I'm in my new Illustrator file. I've got a 5 by 5 inch panel to work within, or an artboard rather. If you got to this point where I am, and for some reason your image is not appearing at the middle, or it's very small like this, what you can do is hit Control plus or Command plus if you're working on a Mac, and use the scroll bars to get things kind of centered and larger in the window. Okay, so the other thing is you may notice that your workspace looks a little different than mine. If you go to Window and Workspace, perhaps it's set to Essentials, which kind of is a little bit more stripped down version in terms of what tools are available. I'm going to go to the Essentials Classic. All right, now we are going to be working with a polar grid. Now, the polar grid tool is right here. In the tutorial, I talk about it being under another tool. Sometimes if you want to condense the toolbar, you can kind of use the ones that are listed underneath here. So it takes a little while to kind of get used to where things are. You can also click on the ellipsis down here at the bottom, and you'll see the full list of the various tools. So you can always enter one of these tools by clicking there. Okay, so I'm already in this polar grid tool, and I'm going to start by clicking in this lower left-hand corner, and I should see that the polar grid tool options panel comes up. And basically what you want to do is change some of these settings. We're going to work with a 4 or 5 by 5 image. We're going to have no concentric dividers, and we're going to have 12 radial dividers. So I'll go ahead and click on OK. All right, now you should be able to make a few changes in here if yours doesn't look exactly like mine. Again, I'm seeing this because I changed my workspace to be this Essentials Classic, and so I have a number of options for making revisions. I made the grid itself a little bit lighter by going to 0.25 font, or point rather. I think the default is 1. It just seems a little heavy, so I brought it down as low as I could. All right, now we are ready to begin filling in the colors. So what I'm going to start by doing is I'm going to go to Object, and if you scroll down, you'll see something called Compound Path, and this is going to allow me to put individual colors in the different pie sections. Oh, before I start that though, let's do this. You should see the Properties window over here on the right, and again, that's all based on the workspace that I had set up. I want to change this so it's rotated 15 degrees because I want this to be symmetrical where one pie piece is centered. Okay, so now I'm going to Object, Compound Path, Make, and at this point I'll be ready to begin putting in some of the colors. So I want to change it. Let me change this to none. Okay, so what we're doing is we want the lines to not appear, but we want to have the fill set. So I have both of those as none, and now what I'm going to do is double click down here so that I can establish a fill color. All right, now going back to how our hex codes work, my first color is going to be all red, and so I'm going to maximize that channel, the red channel, and leave the others as 0. And I'll just click in one of these other boxes so you can see that the red channel is at 255, which is the maximum. And I'm going to click on OK. Okay, now what should have happened is only the pie that I had selected would be affected by this. So let me go back and do one more step before I enter into this part. I want to basically fill this piece up here with red. So I'm going to go to this tool that says Live Paint Bucket. And from there, now I'm going to go and make the changes to the fill color. FF0000. Say OK, and then click only in that pie, that piece of pie. Right, so I've got red here. I'm going to do green over here and blue over here to get started on those sort of primary colors within the RGB color model. Okay, so my next one is going to be 00FF00. Okay, click there. And do this again. This is going to be the blue channel, 00FF. Okay. Right, so they're the first three. And the next set will be the sort of secondary colors in the RGB model. So I'll fill this one, and this one, and this one, using the same process of mixing colors within those various channels. Okay, the first one I'm going to do is this one. And remember, in the RGB color model, when you mix red and green, you end up with yellow. So I'm going to double click on the color here, and I'm going to maximize the red and the green, and I'm going to leave the blue at zeros, and I'll fill that in. And I'll repeat that same process for the other two. Double click here. I'm going to do 00, F, 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 F. So this will be the blue and the green, or the green and the blue channels. It's going to give me cyan. And then for the red and blue, we have FF00, FF. Okay, and that's going to give me that magenta. Now let's go on to this next one here. The next set are the tertiary colors, so the mixture of magenta and red. And that gets a little bit more complicated because we have here full saturation of the red and the blue channels, but I'm going to need to make some adjustments to this. I need to go halfway between in order to get this color done correctly. So if you look at the tutorial, the written portion of it, in this case, we need to minimize the blue channel here. And if you look at how those codes work, with 00 being at the low end and FF being at the top, finding where that middle zone is, you kind of have to work from both ends. And it's either going to be 82 or 83 here. The difference between the two is so subtle that you wouldn't really be able to notice it. So go with either 82 or 83, click on OK, and there we have the midway point between those two. And you can go around and follow the same logic to complete the remaining colors in this sort of tertiary set. So now I've completed all of them. And what I'm going to do is kind of exit out of that tool. I've just clicked on the selection arrow and then picked a spot. And I'm going to save my file. And the last thing would be to go to File and export the image. We want to export this as a JPEG. There's a JPEG tool, same name here, export. And it really doesn't matter. Could maximize this. It shouldn't be that big a file. And click on OK, and then you can upload and save your work. And that's it for this assignment.